it's counterintuitive, right? But it's like, you know, it's taking advantage of a situation that's no longer overcrowded, right? I mean, it's going to come back, and the time to build those relationships are the downtimes, right? And I mean, think about like how many people in this industry, when times get tough. I mean, just now when rates are going up, right? I've never seen people take more vacations ever than I have right now, right?
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast. Today, I'm here with Jake Clopton. Jake is a serial entrepreneur, author, and economist specializing in real estate and finance. He founded Clopton Capital in 2009 to provide access to debt and equity for commercial properties. Jake, there's a ton here. I actually definitely will ask you some questions around some of what's in your bio, but I just want to let you tell your story. But first, I want to say thank you. Thanks for taking the time out today, being on the show, and coming in and being a guest. I truly appreciate the time. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. And so let's just start with your story. Tell a bit about your background. You started, I mean, you probably did something before 2009 if you want to start before, but let's hear a bit about, your journey.
Sure. It's a good story. So, I majored in economics. I went to school in upstate New York in Buffalo. When I graduated, I was in OCS from the Marine Corps, actually. I was going to go to Marine Corps flight school. And when I graduated, I was going to go to the second part of it. And they said, hey, just so you know, there's I think it was like a 7-year wait list at the time or something like that. To go to flight school. And I was like, well, what do I do in the meantime? They're like, well, you could recruit people. I was like in a retail center? Like, no. So, that just didn't fit with, what I wanted to do. So a week later, just fast forward a week, I had sold everything I had and I decided to move to Buenos Aires just like that. Kind of an adventure and move somewhere where I didn't have any resources or know anybody and try to figure it out. So I landed in BA without a hotel room even booked and got the shit scared out of me really fast, but figured it out. It actually stayed there for like 2 years, almost 2 years in Argentina. Came back to the US when I decided it was time to, grow up and start, working and all this stuff. I did accounting for a resort in Florida for a year, I guess when I was still trying to figure things out. After that, I had always kind of I was always really interested in trading stocks, futures and stuff. So I moved to Chicago, which is a trading capital of the world. And I had this really weird background, right? Like I'd done accounting and I lived in Argentina and most people, when they go into trading, they go right from college and they're already doing, interviews, to immediately go into trading firms. So I got here and I remember going to a recruiter and showed them the background and everything and what I wanted to do. And I remember this girl saying to me, well, I can't help you at all. But you present really well. So I think you should just go walk into some trading firms and just talk to them and say you want to work there and all that stuff. So I said, thanks for nothing, but actually it was really good advice. I just went to the trading firms and I remember walking into one and I said, hey, I want to, work for you guys and do interviews. And, 3 rounds of statistics interviews later, worked there. I traded interbank hedging product futures, 3-month LIBOR futures and Fed funds futures, all stuff for years, up until 2009. Our schedule was 1 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. 1 a.m. to 4 p.m. So not a lot of life going on outside of that. Around 2009, that whole thing just evaporated, right? There's a credit crisis. All the financial markets kind of shut down. And at the time, there was a great credit crisis and people couldn't find money. So my idea was to start a company based around finding people capital and providing access to capital. Didn't start as just commercial real estate at first, but really kind of evolved into that. For many, many years, about a decade, I was focused on just the capital market side and finding people debt and equity for commercial real estate, until recently where we started to expand into various, services of what we do. And now I'll just run through them. Now I still run our capital markets day to day, but we also have leveraged our contacts and knowledge in the field. We're also a nationwide commercial insurance agency. We just opened a real estate brokerage this year, focused on commercial property, obviously. We also are a 1031 qualified intermediary. We hold people's money, and we also do commercial solar dealership and work.
Wow.
Pretty much everything's nationwide, all asset types, because that's just been our, what we've been involved in from day one is really broad strokes in the entire commercial real estate industry. And anywhere on my side, typically a couple $1 million and up. The deals that I'm personally working on, smallest one's like 2 million, the biggest one's like 150. That's my origin story. So.
It's a good story. You're right. The picking up and moving to Buenos Aires is not what you expect as the next step after.
My mom was not happy, man.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a bit of a shock to family, but also like,
what are you doing?
Yeah. Sometimes good to do that stuff. Shake up life a little bit, but
I tell you, nothing. Listen, there's no feeling like landing in a different hemisphere and realizing you don't have a lot of money in your name and you know nobody, you don't speak the language, and you have nowhere to stay. So you figure things out real fast.
Yeah. Hope to not get robbed or worse.
I tell you, man, I never once ran into any trouble like that.
Good. It's good.
That I'm aware of. I'm sure somebody stole something from me somewhere.
Right. I feel like that's maybe got lucky in that sense, but I think it's interesting because I think it does point to a willingness to take risk, which is certainly a part of being an entrepreneur and having that sort of thinking big, making quick decisions. There's a lot of thought in the business world and real estate as well as whoever makes decisions the fastest is the most successful in a way, right? It's okay to get some of them wrong, but like making a decision and committing to it, I think is a really probably important theme in the rest of what we'll talk about. When you started Clopton Capital and it was obviously a bad time in the market, so it makes sense, right? People can't find debt. I'll be that guy. I'll be the one to find debt for them. But it obviously was hard for a reason. Like, how did you approach that in the beginning? Because I think that's not an uncommon, 2008, 2009 was an uncommon time in history, but debt markets tend to dry up when we have things like that financial crisis or a pandemic or interest rates go up, higher and faster than they ever have before. So you've probably seen a few things through those times. What is your kind of approach to when you run into challenges? Because you started in a challenging time with that.
Well, I think that was the best time to start because, when you're in difficult times, it seems to be the times where there's the least barrier to entry to get into any environment, right? Like, think about it. Like during the crisis, like you had so many people that were leaving jobs and, it was almost just like it was a reset button on the entire industry. Mm-hmm. And when things are at their peak and they're hyper competitive, it's really difficult to break in. Right. I mean, also like people have formed the relationships and, if you're new and trying to get in, it's just really difficult. But when you're in the middle of a crisis, you have all these people coming in and out of the industry and like incumbents that are getting washed out. And you have the people that need them that they can no longer serve, right? So like for instance, if you're like at near like the end of like a credit cycle, like everybody's gotten lender relationships that they dealt with for a long time, but when that ends, a lot of people are not going to be able to go back to the same place. So they're always looking for new outlets and new resources. So it really is the best time, honestly, to be involved. I got involved because I was just a guy that was willing to pick up the phone and cold call people nonstop. And I think that's what really, that's what really did it. Like being able to sit there for hours on end, make phone calls, do the cold calls, reach out, build the relationships. And I mean, I did that. I remember sitting in my apartment just making calls nonstop for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Building relationships, finding capital, figuring it out, like learning the terminology, everything, right? And I really taught myself the business from that, learning from other people, making cold calls, doing deals, stuff like, and other participants. Like I didn't work at a brokerage before. I didn't work at a bank. It was all organic. So, I mean, there's two aspects. There's the timing of it, taking advantage of a good crisis, and then, really just sticking with it and grit and making those calls and putting the work in. And those two things, if you think about it and you put them together, it would be hard not to at least come out with some level of success.
Yeah. Well, yes, I think that's a true statement, but I also think it's not necessarily the common path taken, in the sense that,
Oh no,
getting real serious and working real hard when you're in crisis situation, it's not, but it does prove a point. It proves a point that is actually how you can be tremendously successful, by taking those steps at a time when kind of everybody else or the majority of people step back and say, this is a bad time.
It's counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's like, it's taking advantage of a situation that's no longer overcrowded. Right. I mean, it's going to come back, and the time to build those relationships are the downtimes. Right. And I mean, think about like how many people in this industry, when times get tough. I mean, just now when rates are going up, right? I've never seen people take more vacations ever than I have right now. Right. Yeah. But I haven't gone. I mean, I haven't left my desk the entire year. I've been, building relationships, taking new calls. I mean, with anybody in industry possible. We just opened up a real estate brokerage, side 3 months ago in the middle of, what's probably a completely frozen, buy sell market. So, I mean, I think these are the times to enter in and, to enter a market when the incumbents are struggling and to get market share.
Yeah. Yeah. It has become more and more clear to me that maybe the most important economic factor might be supply and demand. And you could use that analogy to what you said as far as barrier to entry, right? This similar kind of concept, in that there are less people now trying to do what you're doing when you come in at, sort of a crisis point. And so the supply and demand the supply and demand shifts into the, sort of demand for services without the oversupply of people trying to do that same service. And it's so, it's just, it becomes so very powerful. It's probably one of the big reasons why the real estate market, it certainly suffered some pain, but there's still a high demand for housing. And so it's not just going away. It's not being wiped away by, sort of interest rates going up. And it's
right. I mean, housing, good point, right? The economics and the demographics of housing, I mean, they're phenomenal, right? I mean, it's people. People got to live somewhere. And just because rates go up, that doesn't mean people say, you know what? We don't need to live anymore. It's too expensive. right? It's not like an office building. I mean, technically, to a degree, right? There is a alternative. There's really no alternative to putting your body somewhere. you gotta live somewhere, right? So there's always going to be, a floor for housing. Like there's always going to be someone there to pick it up, but to my point, office, maybe not. So.
Right. Yeah, certainly the asset class matters. As you grew, sounds like you've kind of incorporated a number of verticals within your businesses. I really love that strategy. Maybe talk about a little bit how that sort of came to be. If started with really sourcing debt, and then how did you decide where to bring in kind of these other verticals and now brokerage and all of that?
Well, one day about 6 years ago, I just looked at a closing statement and I was like, man, look at all these other people getting paid on these deals, right? And it was all from the same borrower, the same buyer, right? I mean, it was just on the income statement, or the sales statement. So, it's all the same people. We have all the contacts. And one thing I wanted to do, like I built the capital market side, a lot of like me doing a lot of the work, right? I mean, I have a huge, great support staff that helps me out. We're extremely efficient. But bringing on these other verticals, it was going to be relying on other people, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to start doing is, leveraging other people's, experience and time and, to really grow and expand. And we built out these other verticals, off of the backbone of the capital market side and the authority and the trust and the relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes, and we were first up back and forth, right? I mean, sometimes somebody comes in through insurance and they're also looking for financing, or somebody comes in through solar and they're looking for financing on solar in the building, but all this stuff. But and a lot of times, like the finance side will drive the need for this other stuff too, right? Yeah. Like, let's say I get a hotel construction deal and the guy wants to do an SBA 504 green. I mean, right there, I can do finance, insurance, and solar right there. So, I mean, and having all this stuff in house is a phenomenal advantage, especially, for instance, the way that some of it works hand in hand, like the finance and insurance side. I mean, our insurance side has flat out saved deals on the finance side, especially what's going on in insurance right now. I mean, insurance costs are crazy. And to have the ability to have that in-house, I mean, we've all been there. Like, how annoying is it to have to hound your insurance guy to get you a better deal? You have no insight into what's going on. The guys don't really answer the phone that much. Like, you don't even understand the whole background of the marketplace. Now that we have that in-house, like, I fully understand the background of what's going on in the insurance markets. Like, I get in touch with them immediately, right? And we can drive the whole process. And to be able to have that kind of communication between, the capital market side and these other sides, and have them really work really well together, there's nothing better than that. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's taxes and insurance are going to be the biggest sort of line items on your expense of a commercial property. In it, having that sort of insider connection on the insurance side of it, if you can figure out taxes, that would be great. If you can do something to fix that, but the reality of having that all together as an end user, I think, is also just extremely convenient. So it's kind of one of those things that we like convenience. We like convenience in our personal lives. We like our convenience in our business dealings. And so from a standpoint of being that end user, and you've got a client on the capital market side, and you're like, oh, by the way, I can also source your insurance premiums and help, get you a carrier there. Like, it just makes a lot of sense for people in a process that has a lot of steps to have, one person kind of driving a number of those steps and keeping it all pretty efficient that way.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
What do you think? I mean, what else do you see? The closing statement is a great example of, kind of things on there that there's a bunch of people getting paid at a transaction that you may or may not have ever even spoken to. There's just a lot that kind of goes into it. What do you think is next for you? What do you see as like further verticals you could add? What's your idea on growth in the future?
Over time, I'd like to add as much as possible. I don't want to do I don't want to look like we do too much. That's at a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some of this stuff, I kind of put the wheels in motion to start doing title, right? For instance, some of it might be too much. Like can you imagine if we were doing the finance, insurance, and the title? That might be a little weird. But the most important part of putting together these verticals is having the right people to do it with. And that's what the most challenging thing was. I must have gone through, I don't even know, just like 7-8 different iterations trying to get our insurance company up and rolling. I remember being like, here, giving you business on a silver platter, like it's right here. You know what I mean? And it's just, you kind of mentioned this earlier about like the entrepreneurial mindset, right? And what sets some people apart. And I think a lot of times, like people in my position or other people that run their own businesses, they get a little nervous about people understanding what they're doing. So I think like, well, of course, anybody could do this. You would figure it out. But when it comes down to it, 9 times out of 10, like I have to call people to tell them to check their email. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's just, you're either gonna have that mindset and be doing it on your own now, or you're not, right? And finding somebody that has the expertise, hasn't done that on their own now, and also, has that mindset, that can be a little challenging. And I told you I put it together a lot of these things as like joint ventures, right? Because that's how it works the best. That is the challenge with finding, is finding people, like good people to rely on. They're going to be, self-motivated and, self-sufficient and, really operate this thing in a driven type of way and not kind of act like 5 p.m. rolls around and then they turn their phone off,
Right.
I guess that's the difference between an employee and a partner, right? Finding the right partner. Some of the other verticals, like things we've toyed around with adding is, there's other sides of capital markets that we're not really involved in. We don't do an enormous amount of like business, equipment finance, stuff like that. We're mainly commercial real estate. So that would be that, and that's almost a different industry, right? Than what I do. I mean, it's capital markets, but it is different. And then, we do commercial solar, so building up maybe like a residential solar platform as well. Maybe more like complementary things to like a vertical inside a vertical, right? To things that like we're already doing and building out and expanding those as much as possible. Very much so focused on the real estate brokerage side. We just started that off and have already had, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people looking for properties. There absolutely are. So I think, once the cost of capital comes down here a little bit, we're going to see a lot of activity because we're already getting a ton of people interested in that side. Yeah,
it does seem like there's it's going to be fun to see what happens over these next 6-12 months. I think a lot of people are waiting just to see. At this point, they're like, we think rates are coming down. Let's just wait and see what happens. And there's a lot of people, like I said, looking for properties to buy that are going to make sense. There's a lot of people probably looking to get their asset to the point where they can sell it. When the cap rates and the debt sort of get more in alignment. I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens over these next couple months.
Yeah, I think you got to take some of the uncertainty off the table with rates, right? And I think that there's a lot of people just waiting for the Fed meeting this month, waiting for confirmation that they are going to lower them. I'm pretty sure they are. Now people are talking about a 50 basis point reduction, probably 25. But, I think once we get that confirmation and they take that, that step forward, you're going to see a lot of people start to, to really, increase their motivation to go out and find new deals and to get deals done. At the end of the day, this is all just a math problem. And when one side of that problem is getting easier, I think you're going to see a lot of activity.
Yeah. I think buyers and sellers have been, in a lot of instances, pretty far apart, and the cost of capital coming down will allow that to probably get close enough that the two sides can find some, meeting in the middle. And even if people are selling at a bit of a discount than what it was, 2-3 years ago, that it still can find a space where it makes sense to do so. And I think that's really ultimately what what we should hope to see over the next year.
Yeah, it feels a lot like COVID did, right? Where it's like you only sold if you have to. I
Yeah.
just be like, why would I sell now? I mean, I'm going to get the price I want in like a year and a half.
Right. Yeah. It would. I think we'll see. I don't claim to have a crystal ball. I think it was interesting to watch what has happened because we've had so much sort of fluctuation over the last 4 years. It'll be very interesting to see what the next couple look like.
Oh yeah, I mean the last 4 years were just whipsaw.
Right. Unlike ever before. Be very, very, very interesting. Well, Jake, let me switch gears. I want to ask you the questions I ask every guest. The first one is based on the name of the show being Know Your Why. So what is your why? You've been doing this a little while. You've had a ton of success. I love kind of the direction that you're going in incorporating verticals in your business. What keeps you motivated, keeps you going?
I mean, the sense of accomplishment from building something out that's yours. I mean, I've been doing this for almost 16 years. I mean, for a company to be around for that long,
yeah,
that's a pretty good success. Most of them kind of evaporate after like 2 years.
Yeah.
But really, just again, that sense of accomplishment from building something yourself, operating it, and seeing it grow, and then, and now I'm getting a lot of that sense when I bring more people on and we can grow and build together. And that's really what I really want to focus on going into the future, right? Before it was, I had this thing and it was a lot of built around me. The idea in the future is take that, but expand it out and build it around other people and have them, as part of this team and really get that sense of accomplishment and success from everybody.
Yeah. It is funny when you kind of get in that space where not that you can't still learn things and grow, but you get to that point of where you're sort of at that top of that pyramid and having, being able to see the growth and the success in your employees, partners, investors, whatever that might be within whatever, vehicle you are part of. It is really rewarding to see. I mean, kids, whatever it is, like, right. It's like it's really pretty cool to see other people like learning from you and being successful because of you. And so I totally get where you're going with that.
Well, I mean, along the lines of that, like speaking of learning, I hope people learn something from me, but candidly, I learn something almost every day from all the other people that are in this industry.
Yeah.
So I always tell people, especially like the people that I've partnered with, putting together these other verticals and learning the entire, business structure inside of that. I don't think a lot of people that are in our industry really understand the whole thing as a whole. And if you just look at it takes a village to get some of these deals done, right? I mean, if you've ever done a historic tax credit deal, good Lord. And like everybody's come from kind of a different side, right? And especially when there's a lot of negotiation that goes on in these. And if you can understand where the other sides are coming from, you can best understand how to negotiate and make these deals work together. Right. Like before we were involved in these other spots, like with insurance, I would just hammer the insurance guy. I'm like, I get done, but now you have a lot more insight into what goes on. And that's really important. So, And like, as far as learning, man, like I try to take like every phone call. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's like another broker or, some title guy or whatever. I mean, so much has come out of just phone calls that I kind of didn't really think anything was going to come out of the beginning. That I just learned that, don't give up those conversations because you're going to take something home from almost everyone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think every phone call, and I mean, I'll extend that to this podcast. I mean, it like, I don't know, the podcast might be one of the most selfish things that I do because I just learn every single time. Like every guest, it's like pretty cool. I get to ask you, like, what are you doing? What's working for you? Like kind of all with every guest. And I think it's just, I hope that listeners get a lot out of it too. But it's, from my own standpoint, for me, it's just, I'm learning every single interview and yeah, same thing, phone calls with any of the vendors or whoever it might be. It is, if you're willing to be open to that, it's actually pretty cool process to just glean as much as you can from everyone around you.
I agree.
When people hear this and they want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
I'm super easy to find. Jake Clopton on LinkedIn. Our website's cloptoncapital.com. Call me anytime, email. I'm super easy to get in touch with. And since I just said I take every single phone call, apparently I'm going to pick up when anybody calls me. So yeah, it's all good.
Now you'll get all the phone calls.
Yeah, I'm good.
My final question for you, Jake, and I'll let you take this kind of in whatever direction that you want. But a lot of times I ask guests, what would you tell someone who wants to get started in real estate? And I think answer it that way. But I think you can even say, take it as, how would you advise someone to get started in really anything, whatever direct you want to talk about, business ownership, you want to talk about capital markets. You've got a lot of, I think, variety and value within your experience. So I'll make it sort of an open-ended question for you to inspire the people listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I'm 41. I started this company when I was like young, like 26 or something. At the time, I don't think I fully understood to the extent the value of just relationships in any business. I mean, I did, right? I mean, I made all the calls, I did the cold calling, and I met as many people as possible. And I was kind of attributed a lot to like where I am today because of that. But I don't think understood that carries over into every industry. It doesn't really matter what it is, right? And I mean, I think it's because I was coming from an industry, like trading was a very solitary type of deal. Like you could just sit there and stare at the computer screen. But even in that, talking to and learning from other traders, different strategies, that was extremely important as well. So I would say, and I have other guys that I've met that are trying to, break into this industry too. And I just tell them, like, listen, you got to make phone calls. This industry, especially, but any industry, it's just people, right? And networking and relationships is what's going to get you to where you want to go, right? I mean, it's not just being the best, whatever, loan underwriter, right? Like a guy that I was friends with that kind of taught me that was this guy that worked at a bank in Indiana, right? He was just a banker, and he's like, yeah, well, all my clients, I just go out and I make them my friends. And now my friends are all of my clients that I make money from. And he's like, I can't underwrite a loan. He's like, I couldn't underwrite my way of a paper bag. All I do is I get their stuff and I send it to my assistant and then they do it, blah, blah, blah. And I just say, let me know when the loan's closed. So, and he's like, and as a sales guy in this industry, I think he was making more than CEO of his bank. So what makes money is the relationships, right? And the networking. And that's what's going to get you ahead. And as long as you figure out the other side, I think that's where a lot of the success gets driven.
Yeah. And that point also ties in well with what you talked about, just, sort of the team around you, right? Because as you said, that guy, he said he couldn't underwrite. So it's like, but he didn't have to because he had someone who could, and it just, sort of built that team around himself.
But underwriting doesn't make you money. Bringing the loans in, having the relationship, that's what does it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. Jake, this was great. I appreciate, sort of everything with you shared with us today. I think there's a ton of value to be had here. People just kind of understanding your story and your mindset around being successful. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing all that you did. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And folks listening, make sure you connect with Jake. He'll answer your phone calls. And please rate, and review the show so we can get more great guests. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey there, I am Dr. Jason Balara, and this is the Know Your Why podcast, where we explore the why behind success. Every week, I meet with real estate investors, veterinary entrepreneurs, mindset coaches, authors, and fitness professionals to uncover their why and how it drives them on the winding road to success. What is your why?